Brooklyn Rescue Mission as an organization and ministry. It was organized in 2000, it was incorporated in 2002, and we've been operating since then, so it's going on 9 years. We have the food pantry, we have the urban farm, we have the farmers market, we have advocacy and policy programming, we have a senior piece which has over 260 seniors signed up. We're going to re-sign up our seniors so we know exactly who they are again this year. And we have had at least 68 young people come through our ag and community program over the last 4 or 5 years. We found out that when we started to do the food pantry, that you have to have uniformity. You have to have a certain amount of quality of food. And we would have a green patch because we're doing construction. So we would have a green patch so you can cut greens. We would have chard and kale and collards. We would have eggplant. We would have zucchini. We would have a certain amount of peppers that go around all year. So you could have year. My wife, which is Reverend Ebony Jackson, and myself, used to go into homeless shelters. We worked in homeless shelters, but after we left working in homeless shelters, we used to minister to the homeless and to those that were needy. And we did that for 5 years. Used to bring backpacks of not food, but of cologne and books and shirts and stuff like that to men and women. And we realized that as a couple, that's part of our work. So Brooklyn Rescue Mission is a ministry that comes out of that outreach to the homeless and to those that were needy.
So when we started to become very interested in rescue work, we found that a lot of people, that the pressing need was more food than it was shelter in New York City. That even though there's a lot of homeless people, we found that there was a lot more hungry people, and that there were more resources available for food throughout the city than for housing. Housing is something that you have to have a great amount of capital to house people for free. You have to have contracts. Most of these agencies have contracts with the city. So we found that, there were a lot of people who were on the verge of homelessness because they had to choose between food and rent or food and medicine or something, and they were falling through the safety net. And, there were families living in double up and share conditions, and, they'll share their house, but they won't share their food. So in other words, you can sleep on my sofa, but you can't eat my children's food because I can't afford to feed you. So the more work we did, the more we realized that we needed to come up with some innovative solutions for hunger, because the food we were getting was not nourishing to the mind, body, or soul.
Bed-Stuy is characterized, in some people's terms, as a place where there's not sufficient quality, healthy food. The term food desert applies. And we found that there were a lot of seniors and a lot of families that were food insecure. So a food pantry component allows them to be able, hopefully with dignity, to be able to supplement their food budget on a monthly basis, to be able to get more food in the home. And we started our healthy food program because we found that in the beginning of the food pantry component, there was salt and sugar and all types of old food, and people needed healthier food. The food pantry system has a certain amount of foods that are staples, that allow a certain amount of nutrition. There's going to be milk, there's going to be beans, there's going to be cereal, there's going to be meats. There's certain kind of staples that they would like all food pantries to get. Now, based on our training, ethnicity plays a part in what they eat. Like, a lot of our population is 85% African diasporas. They're from the Caribbean or from African American from USA. And they like fresh, healthy foods, especially seniors. The seniors like fresh fruits and vegetables. They prefer that over cans. The younger folks prefer quick prepared meal stuff because they're not used to cooking from scratch. So you have to have some things that the older people like and some things that the young people can prepare.
I didn't think that the importance of the youth work was about so much seeing where your food comes from, but about knowing, having a fundamental experience with food first.
That we have a lot of young people involved in feeding people in the community. So we have young interns from high school and college. Those young people, we're in there packing food bags this morning. So they help us by feeding the folks with food bags, helping us pack the bags and load the trucks from 17 to 20 and plus. We also have them help us grow food. Some of the food out here today, they helped us plant. They help us feed the chickens through our urban ag program and take care of the worms. But they also do advocacy and policy making. We've had our kids speak at Cooper Union. We've had our kids travel across the country to speak at food programs and Kellogg's sponsored food summits. There's a lot of things that our young people have learned to do. Not just to grow the food and give the food away, but also be champions for community.
So we had a lot of young people come through who would say, especially, we work with the young people in the food pantry. And when it came to produce, they couldn't even identify vegetables. So, it began to raise an eyebrow when, you hear young people that are not children, teenagers say, pass me that red thing, pass me that orange thing. And I'm like, yeah, the orange thing is called an orange. I was like, you can't stay and work here if you can't identify foods. You have to know that that's a carrot, that's a turnip, that's a fundamental. You have to know where it grows. You have to figure out what it tastes like. You can't be here and be in a food program and not be able to identify healthy foods. So the more education we did, we realized that the young people needed to know a great deal about food.
When kids come in this garden and they deal with the food being grown, one of the first things they say is, I'm not going to eat that. I don't know, I see it there, but I don't want to eat it. And I can tell you, in 2 to 3 weeks, they're eating the food. They're not even, because there's no pesticides and no chemicals, they're like putting your food in their mouth. They're eating a tomato, they're eating a fresh leaf or green or basil or something because it's there. But we've also had kids come through here that were on a struggle. The kids that we have that come through our high school program, most of them are trying not to drop out. So they work here, they go to school, they get paid, and they're able to stay in school. And we've had kids graduate from high school while we advocated for them and helped coach them. And we share that with another program. They're the high school program and we're the work site. So there's different things that we've done with the seniors alone, having seniors advocate for themselves and talk to the state about their nutritional needs, their food needs. No, not as us as the middleman, but talking to the person in charge of funding for the whole state and food pantries directly right here in this garden. Talking to the United Way, which is a great food funder right here in this garden, directly to the president of the United Way. The seniors have been able to advocate for their food needs. So we're giving people the ability to speak, the ability to mobilize, young and old. I think it's important that often people of color are victimized, and even though this is times where everybody's struggling, that they have to know they can have a voice. So it's not just a food pantry, it's a place where people, that's why we don't give out the food at 12 o'clock. And you saw as when you came to do this interview, there was people gathered, and it's only 10 and change, because they use this as a meeting place. Based on what's coming, as you know, that boom population from the 50s and the 60s is getting older. I just happen to be the tail end of that population. I was born in 1960, I'm 51. So in that process of these seniors and these 50-year-olds getting older, what is their food budgets? What are their retirement budgets? We know that there's they said an epidemic coming of seniors that are going to need food support. These are statistically founded across the country. There are different foundations trying to prepare, and different organizations trying to prepare for what's going to happen to these seniors. That these young people that are 50 and 55 and 60 that are going to need this extra food support. So it really is going to be a coming epidemic, and people know it. We're just trying to make sure it doesn't go back to where it was. And then what I mean by that, in the 60s and the 70s, as you know, maybe some people don't know, that food became a policy component in the Senate and in the Congress in the 60s when people were starving in Appalachia, starving in the urban areas, and they had babies going to the hospitals with swollen bellies. And we had seniors eating cat food in the 60s and the 70s. 80s came around and people decided to create these food banks. And we don't want it to go back to when bellies were swollen with children and seniors were eating cat food. So this is the process by which people are preparing now.
You know, I fundamentally believe that food is a basic human right. Good food, healthy food, food that you would want to eat. I do not believe in being shamed into the food movement because, you know, you happen to grow up eating, you know, Cheetos and barbecue potato chips like I did. I think that's a wrong approach to motivating a culture of people who was told that McDonald's was fine all your life, and now, you know, you're like hooked on Pepsi, and you know, and you have people jamming down your throat why sugar sweetened beverages is instant death. I do think though that if people develop a healthy relationship with food, we can all change. And part of the process of the Brooklyn Rescue Mission and the Bed-Stuy Farm, I believe, is to find civil, friendly, user-friendly ways of integrating community change through food.